But what's the best axe to have in survival? Do you have trouble trying to decide which axe to even buy and what are even the differences between them? Well, let's go over them. These styles of axe around the 25 to 27 inch handle length and around the 2-pound head is the most popular axe that has ever been invented and used throughout the world. And there's a lot of different designs to them. And so some of those being the thickness of the bit right here, the weight, and the shape. The most popular and most economical axe is this boy's axe, is what it's called. This style of axe. This one is made by Council Tool. It's a 2¼ pound head, but with the handle, the total weight is 3.2 pounds. They say it has a 28-inch handle, but measuring from the top of the axe head here, it's 27¼ inch. So even from the very top of the handle here in this spot, it's down to 27½. So not quite 28-inch handle, but that's something that you just need to think about with that. Plenty long. Right with these axes from 25 inches here with this one, this Gransfors Bruks, hand forged in Sweden. This one is 2.6 pounds total. And this by the Best Made company is 26½ inches and 2.7 pounds total. So all three of these are all great choices. This one's right around $50. This one is right around $200 or more. And then this one was actually right around $200, somewhere in there. But you can find all of these styles a lot cheaper than $200. So this one right here, our Council Tool, this bit size is a little bit bigger. The total length on that with the bit is 4 inches. So that's nice for a cutting face. You're taking out more wood than our Gransfors here, which is only 3½. And then with a Hudson base style from Best Made, what's nice about that is about the same size, but the axe itself is lighter. And with this top profile, you can see on this particular one, it's a lot thicker, so that's better for splitting. And so this is a little bit thinner, it's going to dig in deeper before you hit that wood and start to split it apart. Same with this one here. This one's even thinner. And then this one was designed for what they say was holding it for 2 hands and then limbing a tree the traditional way. So as branches are sticking out of the tree after it's felled and down on the ground, you can use this and quickly limb the tree. And that's why it's right around that length. But it turned into an excellent all-purpose axe. But what we used in survival training when we just started out is the boy's axe right here. And it's a great axe. You can't go wrong with getting this one. You can find these pretty inexpensive, and you can find them more expensive as well, depending on where you look. But with our Gransfors here, you can see the advantage of having this cheek come down right here. It's a little more wood contact, so it makes that a little bit stronger. They say with these axes, don't pound it really hard on something else, like for wedges. Say if you put a wedge in this to try and split this, it's not made for pounding because the top of this, the cheeks will spread out slightly and can loosen the axe head. So some of them are made for pounding, some are stronger, and then some aren't. The advantage to this handle style here has a nice hook. It really holds your hand in when things are wet and slippery out there. Versus our Best Made, in a lot of axes, it's pretty good. It has a good handle swell on the bottom. But all in all, they try and make them pretty universal, and they're pretty close. What you want to try and stay away from is an axe with just a straight handle. Your hands will want to slip right off of it. But the advantage to having a Hudson base style is that you can bring your hand down closer on it for carving and doing fine tasks. Versus this one, it's harder to say strike a metal match. It's hard to get a lot of force on it when your hand is a little bit further down. What's nice about this one when I'm splitting wood is that I can bring my hand down closer, and it's a little bit more comfortable to split wood that method than versus this one right here. Your hand is just a little bit further away. But they both work just the same, just fine. You know, no problem, no big deal. They're all pretty comfortable to use. This one is the most comfortable though for splitting wood. This one is kind of the least comfortable for doing it that way. This part's a little bit sharp, kind of gets in the way. And then this is just a little bit better to hold in that regards. You don't see a lot of people splitting wood this way, but it's actually my preferred way of doing it because it's just a little bit faster. Now, depending on what knife I have, I'll use the knife to split up wood that way. When you're looking at axes to buy, I like how this is a little bit thicker for splitting wood. It's a little bit better for a camp axe. Your bit goes in plenty deep. It only goes in a little ways when you're chopping and splitting through wood. So it's nice to have a little bit more thickness there to help split it out. This one probably works the least best for actually splitting wood. Has to go in real deep before it starts to spread it apart. But I've used this one the majority of the time over both of these two. For years I used this one, was my favorite axe. But now it's turned more into this one. It's a little bit more my favorite. I like the bigger cutting face of it. The downside to this, if you're not very careful, you can see how this cheek is the thinnest, the narrowest of them all. So the majority of axe heads will break right around this area, right around the shoulder area. You can see the grain here is not perfect. So if you slam this into a piece of wood and start twisting it back and forth, you'll crack these handles and it'll separate on those grain spots. So what you really want to look for to be optimal is the handle section with this grain, the lines of the wood going straight up and down. That makes everything the strongest as it's traveling down through. Not all axe handles are perfect, and really if the handle is going in the wrong direction, if it's sideways a bit, that's going to be okay. It's just not ideal. So you're going to be fine with not having perfect grain if you're careful with the axe. But the problem happens when you start twisting it and making mistakes, hitting the handles a bunch, you know, as you go through, and then maybe you're hitting the branches. It starts to weaken it, and then your handle is going to break a little bit faster than if it would have had perfect grain. This one's pretty good. It's angled just slightly, but you can see how they go through. Hickory, even these other companies making axes across the world, they get American hickory. They buy hickory because it's the strongest wood for axe handles. It's the best. It's hard to mess up making a bow with hickory. It's hard to break those things. So that's why it's good to even start with making bows with that type of wood as well. Looking at the top of these with the thickness of the steel by the wedge, and this is the eye of the axe. This one is the thickest, so it's going to be the strongest there, so they add a little bit more steel there because it's thinner and narrower on top. This one is the thinnest. Now just pounding tent stakes in the ground, pounding big sticks into the ground for stakes, you're not going to loosen this up. I haven't in all the years doing it. It's going to be just fine. So again, it's just, we want to be careful pounding in wedges and other pieces of steel, because we've pounded axes in, like one axe on top of another, just pounding and pounding to try and split something. You want to be careful of doing that too many times with this type of axe here. This one's a little bit thicker. It's going to take a lot of pounding to loosen these things up, but just the other consideration. You can see the different wedges on top here. This one, these two have an angled wedge through it, and this has a circular wedge. It really doesn't matter. What you want to look for is if that top part of the handle is mushroomed over the top slightly here. That's what is happening with these wedges. You pound a wooden wedge in, and then the metal wedge helps keep and hold everything in place. Personally, I don't agree with this wedge going in sideways right here. Because if this one goes in deep enough, it's going to split the grain of the wood slightly. So I would prefer just to have it straight in, but a lot of companies like to do that. I don't know why. This one, the round wedge, same thing here, but really, it doesn't matter. Just because these axes, say from the Best Made, is thicker here, doesn't mean it's going to be the same thickness if you get the same style. What's my favorite axe out of the three? It's got to be a toss-up between these two. I really like the best made style, this Hudson base style, better than this one at the moment. But although I've used this one for years teaching survival, and it's just such a great axe. Same thing with the boys' axe. Right now I like this handle length, which is 1.5 inches longer than our 25-inch here. So I like the extra length on this handle. I like somewhere right around the 26.5 to 27.5, somewhere in that length, just for me personally. What they say is you can put it in your armpit and straight out and right around to where your end of your fingertips are. It's going to be a good length for you. But really, they all work the same. It's an axe handle, so it's really what you want. When you get into the shorter style of axes, you got to be safer with it. I have an axe that's the same size head as this, but the handle is shorter. And so a lot of times you got to get on your knees. It's the safest way if you're chopping down a tree. Because if you miss, it's going to go off and into the ground first versus standing up close to it. You miss, it glances off, and you come in closer to you. I've cut myself with this axe right in the shin. So all the axes, you just got to be safe with them. And the reason I cut myself on the shin was I was chopping about waist level. I first got the axe, I was going fast, it glanced off, and then down into my leg. And so luckily it was just a few stitches, it wasn't that bad. It just hurt for about a month. Any axe you can chop yourself in the leg. But what's the best axe to have in survival? The one that you have, just like with a knife. It doesn't matter. If you have a piece of steel, you're ahead of the game when you're out there. If you have that tool, that's going to help you out all the better. Thanks so much for watching, and keep surviving.